Hello ladies and gents, as you know The Witcher 4 is underway and The Witcher 1 Remake is coming soon as well. Probably. My name is Eugene and today I want to discuss some small, almost inconsequential changes I would like to see implemented in the games to make them slightly better. Not just in the Witcher series, but any game in general. But the discussion today is gonna be around The Witcher, of course. Now, these changes are so minor that their absence would not break the game. There are just some tweaks I believe could have been useful in The Witcher 3. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. To start off, I want to talk about your character's movement speed. In games like The Witcher 3, where story and immersion are of paramount importance, I often find myself so immersed that I play in a realistic manner, which in my vocabulary means the opposite of chaotic. I mentioned this in one of my streams. I'll show you a clip of what I mean afterwards. In one quest where you have to follow Anna Henrietta on your horse moves too fast. If you slow down, Roach moves too slowly, making the conversation feel offbeat. It's the same when trying to walk side by side with other characters, especially when you run and you have to run in zigzags to match your companion's pace. The solution I proposed during gameplay is simple. Why not make the movement speed adjustable with a mouse wheel? You could scroll up or down to slow down or speed up your character. It seems like a minor change, but I believe it would make any story-driven game better in situations like the one you're about to see.
Get up! Why do you flee?
Witcher, come back! You're to protect Her Highness!
Have you ever heard of anyone defeating such a vampire?
Know of a man who defeated one, sure, but he didn't manage to kill it. Ultimately, only another vampire can kill a vampire.
Get up! Why do you flee?
Why do I flee? I would tell you why I flee, Your Highness, but I refuse to speak such words. Next, let's discuss customizing your transport, that is your mount. In The Witcher 3, Roach is too iconic to be replaced, obviously. But for a completely new saga, why not have unique horses? Maybe even the ability to buy and name them. When I was streaming The Witcher 3, some people in the chat expressed concerns about not being able to change Roach's color. It's insignificant, but it could make the game more interesting. You could also customize your mount by adjusting certain attributes, like different skills and abilities. At the end of the day, you could even have a stable, like a garage in modern setting games, with more than one horse at your disposal. Which road should I ride today? So being able to tune your horse up could be a nice idea. Moving on, let's talk about difficulty. This is the only somewhat major change on this list. I know I call them small changes, but this one could make the game much better, especially The Witcher. I played The Witcher games on the hardest difficulties, and it was a pleasant challenge, but it felt unrealistic. You play as Geralt, who is more than a mere human. He is a super strong mutant, yet in terms of vulnerability he's almost at the same level as an average human, meaning he can get injured, potentially fatally, by a mere pitchfork, let's say. So I enjoy the Death March difficulty, but here's my point. I don't like that it takes so long to slay someone. I'm not talking about super strong monsters, I'm talking about regular humans. Whether they wear heavy armor or not, it doesn't make sense to swing your sword endlessly, dealing only minor damage. I discussed this before while streaming The Witcher 2. What I'd like to see is a realistic difficulty where you deal and receive somewhat equal amounts of damage. It could basically combine the easiest difficulty for your damage dealt and the hardest for damage received. It would feel more balanced and lore accurate. You'd still need to be super careful not to get slapped, but you'd feel like a real Witcher when it comes to your own slaps and strength. Now this could be an additional difficulty level, not the base one. Some realism in sword fighting would make the game far better. Perhaps I'm mistaken and it would make the game too easy, but I don't think so. Different enemies would have different difficulty levels. Getting slapped by a bear or a Leshen would be far deadlier than by a human, and to slay a Leshen you would need to deal more damage than to slay a human. So I'm curious what you think of this idea. It brings me to the next related one. Recently I've been playing Fallout 4 and they did a great job with this option, in my opinion, by adding the survival difficulty level. It makes you appreciate your surroundings more and forces you to survive. When I started playing Fallout 4, I chose the very hard difficulty, thinking it was the most challenging one to play on, and I enjoyed the challenge. But a few hours into the game I discovered survival, and it made the game far more immersive. After switching the difficulty, I started to feel like a survivor. Fast travel was unavailable, to save the game you had to find a place to sleep, food and water became more valuable, the weight limit was decreased so you didn't feel like a Terminator in the post-apocalypse carrying heavy guns. You still received a lot of damage, just like on a very hard difficulty, but you dealt more damage yourself on survival. Enemies just weren't super tanky on that difficulty. In the Witcher games, food and drink exists too, but unless you're just starting out and don't know how to craft healing potions, food and drink become obsolete quickly. They're just aesthetics, basically. But I feel food and drink could play a role, especially with survival elements. I'm sure there are mods for that, just like in Skyrim. At the end of the day, no one wants The Witcher turned into a survival game, but adding this feature as a difficulty level could make for interesting experiments, so I'm curious what you think. Another idea is to add more side entertainment in The Witcher. You have fistfights, horse races, and some concerts you can randomly encounter on the streets. There are taverns where you can buy food and drink, but it would be nice to have a little more. The world has a lot to offer. We could have more entertainment, and when it comes to taverns, the ability to book a room to sleep with some sort of buff. Of course, there's also Gwen, but it's the only real mini game you have. In the first Witcher, you could play dice. I'm curious why they removed that option. All I'm saying is they could add some more points of interest or other mini games. For example, fishing or hunting competitions. It's not really necessary though, but it would definitely make the game more immersive. Speaking of other small changes, let's discuss crafting. There could be a wider variety of craftable items. Of course, there's already a very expansive crafting menu in The Witcher 3, but there are some items that actually had been removed. For example, in The Witcher 2 you had traps. I'm not sure why they decided to remove them. It was actually very interesting to use them. Then we could have more mods for weapons, a sort of workbench to modify your weapons and armor more than just putting a rune on them. Next, speaking of combat, apart from the difficulty, perhaps elements of stealth could make it more interesting. There was one stealth mission, or rather a stealth approach you could take in The Witcher 2 in one of the first quests where you had to get out of the prison. Now, stealth mechanics could definitely make it unique in a way. Maybe one of the ways to play could be a stealthy way, or you could apply stealth while hunting monsters. Let's say. They could introduce skills and gear specifically designed for stealth gameplay. In turn, crossbows could be utilized much better because frankly the only use for them in The Witcher 3 is for stuns, even though the crossbow is supposed to be a very powerful weapon. Then there are bows, which could potentially be used as well, although maybe it's unheard of for Witchers to use ranged weapons, but for a different type of Witcher, maybe it would not be so bad. After all, a crossbow is primarily a hunter's weapon. Like, you need to have some sort of ranged weapon for hunting. Swords might not be enough, so I think stealth could be a nice alternative to combat heavy gameplay. Now let's talk about inventory management. It actually took me some time to figure out how to properly craft stuff in The Witcher 3. I don't think it was that intuitive, so they could definitely make it better. Maybe add more auto sorting options for better organization, so to speak. But this is of course something which you learn over time. I just feel like it could have been a little bit more intuitive in The Witcher 3. Another small change could be regarding the weather effects in general. Now, I really enjoyed what they did with the day and night cycle and different weather elements, but those elements didn't affect your gameplay in any way. Now, with heavy rain or snow, we could maybe experience some sort of obstruction when it comes to visibility or movement. It could definitely make it even more realistic, and perhaps make the map more diverse in general with different environments. Speaking of map and navigation, honestly I don't really mind what The Witcher 3 did with navigation. Perhaps they could introduce a more detailed waypoint system where you could customize your markers with notes, given the fact that there are a lot of places to explore. But in general, The Witcher 3 map did pretty much everything for you when it came to giving names to certain locations. But fast travel itself could be improved. What they could do is something like they did in the first Witcher. To fast travel you had to pay a sum of coins. I don't see why not do this to add a certain level of realism. Instead of going to a signpost and being able to teleport wherever you like, maybe there could be some teleporting sorceresses you could pay to teleport you anywhere on the map, or you could buy a carriage to take you there, sorta like Witcher Uber. Last but not least, we need dragons. Period. We know they exist. There was one in The Witcher 2, and I'm not talking about wyverns or cockatrices, I'm talking about Skyrim dragons. They would make the game even more beautiful. Simple as that. Alright guys, those are just some changes I thought of. There are many other small changes that could be implemented. If you have any ideas, leave a comment. I would be happy to discuss them with you. Also, if you like this video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned, stay strong. See you on the next one.